Welcome to OSP EXPO. I'm Tina Senatra and I'm in the OSP TV studio. Joining me is Don McCarty with Don McCarty Products. How are you?
I'm doing just fine.
Thanks.
Enjoying the expo. It's been a great show. It's much appreciated to have these quality vendors that I see out there today. I want to thank you people very much.
It's been a great show so far, I have to say. So
yes,
I'm glad that you've been able to carve out a little time to join us. Don has been writing columns for OSP magazine for 30 years, and he is our copper infrastructure expert. So we're going to be doing quite a bit of discussing copper right now. So let's get started with what role does the copper infrastructure play in convergence?
Well, keep in mind that copper has been around since Bell had green horses. Copper supported the industry, whatever we were doing up until about 1978. We had wireless and fiber move into the business. Copper wire is our backbone for our bandwidth, and it's very, very important. Without copper, we would not have bandwidth as we see it today.
So with that, can you tell us what types of copper circuits are still being used today?
Well, it's very obvious that, especially in the rural areas, that we have our plain old telephone service or our PSTN type service. Along with that, you keep in mind that we have monitoring circuits, we have fire alarm circuits, we have burglar alarm circuits, we have control circuits. Many of our manufacturers are still using T1 and HDSL2 among other products that we have in the industry.
Ernie Carey is known for saying wireless isn't. We are wireless to a cell or DAS site, and then we are on a fiber copper landline. Can you tell us a little bit more what that means?
Well, the wireless system, and everybody talking about we're going to go wireless, is simply the cell phone is going to be from a tower, for example. From there, we're going to leave the cell tower either by fiber or our copper T1 type circuits.
Okay.
Also keep in mind that wireless, we have our Wi-Fi systems that without the copper infrastructure, they wouldn't exist today. So,
well, we need those.
Yes.
We'd be a mess, wouldn't we, without that? What are the biggest roadblocks in the copper infrastructure that you're seeing today?
Well, when it comes to the copper infrastructure, with the problems that we face, especially with weather, we end up with water and air core pick cable, and we end up with splice and encapsulation trouble and sheath damage on our copper infrastructure. And in many instances, rather than being proactive and going after the root cause of the problems with the copper infrastructure, many companies over a long period of years, going back into the 70s, rather than be proactively in fixing the circuits, they were using the transferring of the circuits, or what I refer to as the cut to clear policy. If we're going to be involved with bandwidth, we need to be proactive and get to the root cause of problems and protect this very valuable infrastructure that we have today.
It's not going anywhere. What do you think can be done to enhance the copper infrastructure?
Say that again.
What do you think we can do to enhance it?
Well, I think we have most of the tools that we need to analyze our circuits and see how well they're performing or see the health of the individual circuits. I think what we really need is buy-in from everybody, from the field technician that takes care of the copper infrastructure all the way through the management system, so that the top managers recognize the very big need we have for copper to keep our backhaul and our backbone going in the wideband industry.
It makes good sense. How residual is the copper infrastructure?
Well, like I said, the copper infrastructure has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
We started out with paper insulation, went to spiral wrap insulation, and in the 1930s we went to pulp or paper cables. And it's a wild statistic to take a look at it, but when you look at the pulp cable that we have that is working today in the U.S., there's more than 425,000 miles of copper that is under air pressure Pulp cable that is keeping this bandwidth as we know it today going. So
And it's been around for a while.
it has, and we've gone through several generations of plastic insulated cable. We started out with low density polyethylene, and we had some problems with terminating where the ultraviolet light of the sun would break down the copper. But even those copper cables that were placed in the late 60s and the early 70s, if you were to cut back on the sheath about 1 inch or 2 inches, you'd find brand new copper again. And as long as there's not water in that section of cable, it'll perform as well as any of the plastic insulated cables we have today.
Okay, so with that, what would you say is the maximum capable bandwidth for paired copper circuits?
Well, I've been in the telephone business for a long time, almost 50 years. And when I was a field technician, somebody said we were going to put pictures on paired copper wire, the fax machine, and that we would need 300 baud. And we went from that to the dial-up modems, and as we started increasing bandwidth, we felt that this paired copper wire just can't handle it. But it's been proven over years and years and years that we're going up in bandwidth well beyond the 10 megabits, and with the G.dot fast systems, we're going to see 500 megabits. And who knows what's going to happen to copper in the future. As end users work on producing end user equipment, it just gets better and better, and it's needed.
I was just going to ask you, moving into 2015, do you have a prediction for copper that you'd like to share, or an industry prediction?
You mean when I think that copper is going to disappear?
I don't think copper's going to disappear.
I'll disappear before it does. I'll promise you that.
So is that your prediction, that you'll disappear before copper does?
Yeah.
No,
You can take that one to the bank.
That's too funny. Well, as we mentioned earlier, Don has been with OSP EXPO and OSP Magazine pretty much since the beginning of 30 years. I don't mean to date you, but what can you say with your experience with OSP EXPO and OSP Magazine? What's the biggest change that you've seen since as time has gone on?
Well, if you look around, I see a lot of vendors that weren't here 30 years ago, I can promise you that.
Besides our growth.
So, I mean, you have the standbys that we see at every show that we deal with. So,
Right. Well, you definitely are our copper expert, and we love having you part of OSP Magazine, and your column has been a big part of our business, and it's just great to meet you, and I'm glad that you were able to be with us today at OSP TV.
Well, you know, everybody says that I'm a copper expert. You have to keep in mind that I've been all over the U.S. and Canada and into the Pacific Rim, and I've dealt with large R-Box and the small operating companies. And what I see and what I project in my column didn't come out of a book somewhere. It's hands-on, been in the field for a little over 40 years.
Which is the best kind of information to get, is the hands-on. So.
And I want to tell you, when it comes to the copper infrastructure and maintaining this copper infrastructure, all I can do is say to these wonderful field technicians we have out there, thank you very much. And all I can say to you managers is please support them with the tools and the training that they need to do a good job.
Absolutely. Well, and you're helping with your column. So thank you so much for being a part of OSP Magazine and OSP EXPO. It was a pleasure chatting with you today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Until next time, thank you.